Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and I've been just reading through the Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 7, and I got up to verse 23 in the previous recording. So I'll finish off, hopefully, chapter 7 in this recording. So the whole section here has really been about juxtaposing the priests, the high priests and their sacrifices with Jesus, the new high priest. And so verse 23 begins, Kai hoimen pleones esin gegonotes hieres dia to thanato koluestai paramenein. Now, this is a slightly tricky verse, I thought. So we get a hoimen, which is going to be balanced in verse 24 by the hodeh. This is referring to the priests, the hodeh is referring to Jesus. So it's something like they, on the one hand. Now, esin gegonotes is this periphrastic perfect, had become, or perhaps almost had been made. So had become priests, hieres, and the pleones, which is a comparative, in greater number might be a good way of translating that here. So they, having been appointed or having become priests, or were appointed priests, probably better in English to use were rather than the perfect, but so they were appointed priests in greater number, and then we get dia top plus the infinitive. On account of being hindered, this is a passive infinitive, by death. And then we get another infinitive, something almost epexegetic here, from remaining behind. So the point being is that they get appointed high priests, but then they die, and they've got to reappoint another one, and they die, and so on. So just to do that again, so they were appointed priests, here as pleones in greater number, because they were hindered by death from remaining. To translate this perhaps epexegetic infinitive. Originally, in much earlier Greek, the infinitive could be thought of as a dative, was the original idea of the infinitive, and hence we get these epexegetic infinitives surviving in later Greek. Hodeh dia ton menein auton es ton iona aparabaton ekeinten hierosunein. Now, in juxtaposition to them, we get Jesus, so but he, and we get dia tot plus the infinitive, and that's the subject of the infinitive, but he, because he remains, eis ton iona, forever, eke, he has the priesthood, which is aparabaton. This is a two-termination adjective because it's a compound. It's actually three different things. It's alpha, privative, plus the para, and the bar is from bino. Elsewhere, parabino as a verb means to transgress, to put it into Latin. Here it doesn't have that meaning, and in fact this adjective is very rare. It's only here in the New Testament, and it doesn't occur in the Septuagint at all. It probably has the sense of, perhaps some translators say, which does not pass away. I'd like to go back to the roots of this. It's almost which one cannot walk away from, one cannot step away from, is literally what it is. It's alpha privative plus para, and then bino to step. So one cannot step over, or one cannot step away from. Various translators say which does not pass away or is endless, all of those things, but it's an interesting choice of adjective here. And it's two termination, which is why it ends in on, even though it's a feminine noun here. Hothen kai sodzain es top panteles dunatai tus prosecomenus diaututo theo pantotitson es ton entukanein huper auton. Hothen is that hot plus the then, from whence, so as a result of which, perhaps, also, dunatai, he is able, As to panteles is an adverbial expression. It means completely, unto the completeness, literally, so perhaps completely or entirely. So from which also he is entirely able to save those approaching, from proserchomai, participle here, through him, taking a dative, so to approach God through him, pan toti, pan plus toti, always living, as to en tunkanein, we get as to plus the infinitive for purpose. En tunkano originally means to meet with somebody, it's just en plus to chance upon somebody. Then the meaning comes to intercede on their behalf. So to intercede with someone. So always living so as to intercede huper auton on behalf of them. Verse 26, toiutos gar, and he's quite fond of this tosutos and toiutos, this particular writer. So toiutos gar heimin kai eprepen archierus hosios archekos amiantos kekorismenus apoton hamatolon kai hupsoloteros ton uranon genominos. 4. Now, this is from prepo. Normally you get prepe, which is impersonal. It is fitting, but it is appropriate. It is fitting. Here we're not. We've got a subject of this verb here. So 4, also, make sure you don't forget all these kais. Also, such a high priest is fitting. So is appropriate, is fitting. Heimin for us. Hosios, such a one who, so the toiutos goes with the hosios. So for he is so fitting, for we have such a high priest, such who is, we'd simply say, archakos. Sorry, no, what am I doing? No, sorry, hosios is not from this. Sorry, it's holy. Sorry, for we have also a high, for such a high priest also is fitting for us. Sorry, then we get a list of things. This is not the hosio, this is hosios, holy. So he is holy and akakos, which means not evil, hence innocent. So without evil, so hence innocent. I think it's normally translated. Miantos, this is from alpha privative plus the miino root, to defile, so this is undefiled. Keko is menos. Chorizo is to separate, and so this is the perfect passive participle here. Having been separated from sinners, hamatolos, and having become hupseloteros, higher than, so this is a comparative from hupselos, higher than the heavens. Just a little minor point of grammar, you know, with the oteros, you can get oteros or oteros for the comparative. If the previous vowel is long, then you get oteros. If the previous vowel is short, you get oteros. A little grammatical point you may have come across in the grammars, worth mentioning again. Hos uk eke kathemeran anankain, hospe hoi archires, proteron hupaton idion harmation thusias, anapherein epater tone to lau. He, uk eke, does not have the necessity, kathemeran, this is a fairly standard expression, day by day, or daily, or day by day, so he does not have the necessity, day by day, as the high priests or the chief priests do. Now we go down to here, anapherein, to offer thusia sacrifices, hupaton idion hamatian, on behalf of his own personal sins, proteron firstly, epater, and then understand to offer sacrifices on behalf of of the sins of the people. So we've got to just supply a whole lot of stuff from here for this second part. So he does not have the daily necessity as the high priests do to offer sacrifices first on behalf of his own sins and then on behalf of the sins of the people. Tutogar epoiesin hapax hiauton anenenkas. For he has done this, that is, he's made offering, hapax. This is, hapax is once, the F is just once and for all, it just strengthens the hapax. So once and for all, anenenkas, this is an aorist participle from anaphero. It should be a strong aorist, but it's weak here. This often happens with this verb. The aorist from phero is einenkon, so this is the aorist, unaugmented aorist root, enenk, and was turned into a participle, so it's an aorist participle. So having offered himself once for all. Honomoska anthropus kathistes archieres ekontes asthenean, hologos de tes horkomosias tes metaton nomon huion, eston iona tetele omenon. For the law, the nomos, kathistesi, this is present from kathistemi. Here it just means to appoint, I think. Can often just mean to be, but here it's actually a bit stronger. So for the law appoints men as archieres, as chief priests or high priests, having astheneia, having a weakness. That is, they've got their own sins and also they're going to die. Hologob, and then in comparison with that, there's no men here, but we do get a nice de here. And interestingly, in earlier Greek, the det would have come after the hot, but it's been delayed here. Det normally comes second word. But the word tes horkomosias, this is another very rare word. It's it appeared back in verse 20 in this chapter. It's only in Hebrews in the New Testament and very rare outside of it. The roots of it are clear. It's from horkos, an oath, and the omos is from omnumi, to swear. So it's an abstract noun. This is the swearing of an oath, or perhaps a sworn oath. But the word of the sworn oath, and then in apposition to that, the one which comes after the law, and we have to supply a verb. There's no verb in this clause here, so we're going to supply kathistesi again. So, but the word of the sworn oath, the one which came after the law, kathistesi, establishes a son who has been made perfect. So establishes a son forever, a son who has been perfected, who has been made perfect. Perfect passive infinitive here from teleio. So just to that last bit there. So for the law establishes men as chief priests having a weakness, but the word of the sworn oath, the one which came after the law, establishes a son forever, a son who has been made perfect. And that is the end of chapter 7.